Shri Krishna Chaitanya. Turn it on. Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Govardhan, tell them to put it, beat it up. You ready? Oh, he's ready. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Oh! Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Boom. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Go Premanandi. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pari Vijakacharya Astadhishi Shriman is divine grace of Vacharan Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. This can be found with Charya Prabhupada. Jai Anant Jai Nam Charge Jai Ring Shubhu Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Govinda Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Ki Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavadam Ki Maturadam Ki Dwarkadam Ki Navadipdam Ki Jagannapuridam Ki Jamuna Mai Ki Ganga Mai Ki Tosi Maharani Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Sambhita Bhakti Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki Sesti Radha Giridhari Ki Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki Gopremanande. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to the sum of devotees. All glories to divine Lord Sita Sri Sri Guru and Gauranga. Thank you, Tapas. So a little preface. We're going to talk about two things. Something that just recently was approved by the Indian government. Well, you'll hear. And the other is a little more long range. So two things. And we needed that clock. Oh. Of course, the wry nature of the thing is I need a light to see it. You with us? Okay, so I first went to Mayapur in 1973. And, well, let us say this. Prabhupada was speaking in Gainesville, Florida. I forget the year. But Prabhupada said, Everyone is watching. All right. Prabhupada said, he was speaking in Gainesville, Florida. Now, Gainesville is a reasonably, has 40,000, 50,000 students. And I don't know, why don't you look up the population of Gainesville? You have your Google search there? And Prabhupada said, I'm speaking to you from this city, far from Sridham, this remote, that's what it was. Prabhupada said, I'm speaking to you from this remote corner of the earth, far from Sridham, Mayapur. Now, if you were to calculate materially, Mayapur seemed pretty remote. What's the population of Gainesville? 133,000, population in Gainesville, and there's greater Gainesville, including Alachua. It's a large population center, relatively speaking. But Prabhupada said, in this remote corner of the earth, far from Sridham, Mayapur. Now, when I went to Mayapur in 1973, we all traveled together. I don't know how many devotees, a couple hundred devotees easily. And there was practically nothing. I mean, that was spiritually, so many things were there. But as far as population and facility, we could hear, we got there in it was the evening, early evening. And we could hear, it was all rice fields, just rice fields and banana fields. And people growing rice and that, maybe some other grains, pulses, spices, a few things. But it was flat, and you could hear the kirtan from the temple floating across the rice fields miles away. You could hear, in those days, you could hear a radio. If someone was playing a radio a couple miles away, you could hear it. So it was a pretty remote place. There was only one building. The only building was the Lotus building, if you know Mayapur. There was a little grass hut that they'd built for Prabhupada to stay in. Bricks and then a thatched roof. Yeah, about something like that. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj went, thanks. Oh, there you go. Thank you. Tamal Krishna Maharaj went there with Srila Prabhupada when they brought out the brass, the Ashtatata Radha Madhava. They were about this big, Radha Madhava. Maybe they were a little smaller. And the hut, it was only structure on the property. It leaked on one side. So they put a divider down the middle. Prabhupada and Tamal Krishna Maharaj stayed on the side that leaked, and Prabhupada put the deities on the side that didn't leak. Tamal Krishna Maharaj told me this. And when they woke up in the morning, the first night, Prabhupada was already up. Tamal Krishna Maharaj woke up. And Prabhupada, the first thing he said to him was, you snore. Tamal Krishna said, I don't snore. Prabhupada says, how do you know? You were asleep. Tamal said he had a point. He didn't really know if he was snored or not, So it was pretty remote. And even then, Malati Devi says that she cooked for Prabhupada. I don't know when we first got that land, but probably at the most a year, 2 years earlier. It's a whole story. Tamal had Prabhupada's godbrothers, and I'm saying it, some of Prabhupada's godbrothers actually were in cahoots with each other and the Muslim farmers to make sure that Prabhupada could not buy land in Mayapur. There had been several attempts. They couldn't find it because they didn't want, and Prabhupada wanted what he called the America House. He wanted a place where his disciples could come to Sridham Mayapur and soak up the spiritual atmosphere, be purified. And that was Prabhupada's plan, that we should have a base there in Sridham Mayapur. But there was nothing out there, flat as could be. Then, by the time I arrived, 73, Malati Devi said the way they were cooking was they had a bucket filled with cow dung or charcoal, and they would cook on top of that. And because there were no bathing facilities, the brahmacharis used to steal their buckets. So it was a daily fight. And Malati Devi's, she's pretty strong actually, from fight with the brahmacharis so they wouldn't steal her buckets. And there was probably maybe 20 people living on the property at the most. So, and it was tough. So when we got there, there was one building on top of it, on the land, and it was the Lotus building. I didn't have a chance to finish all this, and so I'll add some pictures later on. But the, and it was a construction site. It wasn't even finished. We stayed on the roof. We stayed on that. It was concrete, you know, not even finished. The marble wasn't even there, you know. The temple room, I believe, the temple room was finished, and Prabhupada's quarters were finished. A few rooms for life members because that's how they raised the money. They got life members to sponsor. They got to stay in a room a certain out of 1 month out of a year or something, and we all got sick. We were all bitten by mosquitoes. I mean, it was rough, blissful and rough. So in that, we stayed. I don't want to get too far afield, but then the next year we came. There was only 2 airlines. There was Air India, which got you to India. Then there was Indian Airlines. It was the only domestic airlines. And that's what, you know, and they got their signals, or their scheduling was off. And so they put us up. We were supposed to fly. We did fly from New York City to, and it's blissful. All the devotees in South America flew up to New York City. All the devotees in Canada and all the devotees in America flew to New York City. We rented a jumbo jet, you know, it was commissioned an Indian Airlines jumbo jet. Then everybody flew to London, everybody in Europe, and they all got on the plane in London. And we filled up the plane. We filled the jumbo jet, and we had kirtan on the plane, going up and down the aisles. And the captain of the plane said, you know, you got to stop dancing. I can't fly the plane. The plane was rocking back and forth like this. So we all had to sit down and have kirtan. But they missed their connection. So we landed in Bombay, and from Bombay, we went to Delhi, and Delhi, they missed the flight to get us to Calcutta. From Calcutta, you go to Mayapur. So they put us up in what used to be the most expensive hotel in Delhi. And it was called the Taj Hotel. And it had been a former palace. Remember the Taj? You don't know? Yeah, he knows. It was the Taj Hotel, and it was a former palace of some Rajasthani prince that they turned into a hotel. And they gave us the whole thing. I don't want to go too far afield, but just to give an example of, Mayapur had no money. And so what they, you know, very little. And whatever they had, they spent on construction. So everybody independently had the same bright idea. They gave us free room service. You know, what are these sadhus? What are they going to ask for? A little milk and fruit? What are they going to ask for? The devotees, without any scheming, had the same idea, Radha Madhava. And everybody ordered dry fruit, dates, nuts, ghee, tins of ghee they gave us. Everybody loaded up their suitcases and flew to Mayapur to give to Radha Madhava, because they were getting powdered milk and they didn't have anything, you know. And it was the largest Mahendra, who arranged it from the BBT, Mahendra told me it was the largest room service bill in the history of Air India. I had to pay it because they said you got free room service. So it was blissful, but not much facility. And we stayed at this construction site. So, and by the heart, devotees in Australia, in North America, in Europe, we used to say that every book is a brick for Mayapur. And that was the truth. There was a profit, you know, Prabhupada set a scale, whatever the cost of the book, we doubled, and whatever the BBT, because the BBT turns a profit. It's designed like that by Prabhupada. And it was our construction fund. Just like the Bank of America used to be the Bank of Italy, because no one would loan to the Italian first generation immigrants. So some successful Indian businessmen put their money together and started a bank. and loaned to India, and that grew up and it became the Bank of America. So our development bank was the BBT, and the BBT has a construction fund, and that money primarily, and it built this. We got a loan to buy this building. We got a loan to buy the house next door. I mean, all across America, all around the world is where our temple started getting loans. But the primary focus was giving money to Mayapur, especially in the 80s under Harikesh. So much money. And it's built up. It's the beautiful Prabhupada's Samadhi, Lotus building, Conch building, so many things. Beautiful Brahmacharya ashram, Prashadam Hall. It just goes on and on and on and on. That garden with the fountain and everything, and now it's continuing. It's the TOVP. So by the dedication of devotees around the world, and certainly the devotees serving in Mayapur, Ram went to Gurukula there. He turned out all right. So so far, no. But so I just want you to see what's happening in Mayapur in the light of that history. It's just it's an amazing thing from this what most people would consider a remote corner of the world. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the previous acharyas and the burning desire of Srila Prabhupada, this beautiful Mayapur Dham is coming up. Okay, so this is a recent development in that. ISKCON Mayapur Chandra Mandir, the government has granted for building a Ganga bathing ghat. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing on the banks of the Ganga. And they have, well, you'll see. And it's all from government funding. And they have, in America, in so many places, well, it's religious affiliated, we won't give money. But the Indian government under Modi, they're very much, and when Gopal Krishna Maharaj, the GBC for Northern India, and really the senior GBC for all of India, when he meets Modi, they walk together, they're holding hands. He appreciates what ISKCON is doing. They are sending statues. There's a system. This is done primarily by a devotee named Yudhisthira Govinda, who's just a wonderful, young, second-generation devotee. The Indian government, to promote India's culture and fame, is sending statues of famous Indians all over the world, like a statue of Gandhi in Regent's Park in London. They've got another one in Moscow. So many things. Yudhisthira Govinda and Gopal Krishna Maharaj have convinced the Indian government that one of your most famous cultural ambassadors is Srila Prabhupada. You should send statues of him. And they've agreed. They're going to put a statue of Srila Prabhupada walking at 26 Second Avenue. And they're going to put one in Tompkins Square Park. We're going to get one by Krishna's grace for Prabhupada's quarters, Prabhupada's darshan room, and then another one for Prabhupada's, So all famous places where Prabhupada spent time. New Vrindavan's going to get one. And the Indian government's paying for everything, including shipping. And they're big, life-size statues. So that's pretty far out from the Indian government. Doubling down on that, they have part of the cultural and another ministry, the health ministry of India. They're doing the best they can to clean up Mother Ganga. It's going to, whatever. So as part of that, they're redoing and building the famous ghats, bathing places. And so Yudhisthira Govinda and Gopal Krishna Maharaj convinced them that they should build a bathing ghat at Mayapur. And I'll show you, it's not just a simple thing. So, and it's going to be named the Srila Prabhupada Ghat. Next. So part of the Indian government's effort to clean and beautify Mother Ganga, designated to accommodate the projected volume of tourists and pilgrims at ISKCON Mayapur. You'll see, it's big. This is Mother Ganga, of course. Next. So this is Sridham Mayapur. And the TOVP, this is all Sridham Mayapur, all of this. This is Bhakti Siddhanta Marg, that road. There's a whole history about that. I'll tell you quickly. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati in the 1930s, late 20s, 30s, I don't know exactly when, it was still when India was under the Raj, the British Raj. He was such a famous sadhu and influential, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that he invited the governor of Bengal. Bengal was all one place. It was Calcutta was the second city of the British Empire, and he was the governor. He was right under the viceroy. I forget his name, but he was the governor of West Bengal. Bengal. It was all one state, not east and west. And he agreed to come, being so impressed by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and his work in India. And there was so much criticism of him. You know, there was the Smarta Brahmins and envious, people. And because why are you breeding this meat-eating malecha, out the street on Mayapur? Mayapur is supremely pure, and this, he should, why have you done this? So critical. He just ignored it all. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur ignored it all. Obviously, we didn't feed him meat. We didn't, But in order to get him out there, because Mayapur was so remote, it was just a bullock cart road out there, that the British government had to reconstruct and put in a brick and solid road from Calcutta all the way out to Mayapur. It took him 3 or 4 months to get the job done. After he came, said his few words and left, and the whole thing was over, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, the governor was scratch. I just wanted the road. It was his transcendental cunning how to get in, because he wanted pilgrims to come, and it was they wouldn't come from Calcutta. It was a long way, but with a nice road, they started coming. So it was all, this is Acharya vision. So, and that road is called Bhaktisiddhanta Marg, and that Chaitanya Mat's down here. But this is the bathing ghat. Look at the Indian government is paying for. Look how big this thing is. It's got a boat dock thing, but this is obviously the steps down. And right here, this blank spot will be the temple for Ganga Devi. We'll pay for that temple. And so that'll be installed here, but all the green gardens, everything here is paid by the Indian government. Next. The Indian government is granting $2 million. They'll build the entire ghat, which includes bathing steps, green space, changing rooms, office, gazebos, lighting, railing, and walkway. They're paying for it. The Ganga Mata temple will be built by ISKCON. Construction will start in June of this year and take 18 months, provided the weather and water levels are supporting construction. Next. So 18 months and they're starting. So this is the health minister, this is the minister of education, it's different people, government ministers at the inauguration fire havan. So this has already happened. They've already come out, signed all the contracts, the money's been granted, and they're starting this is the inaugural fire launching this blissful program. Next. So the status of construction. Now, this is just to give you a little flavor of Mayapur before we talk about the other thing. This is the last time we were in Mayapur was 2020. This is the building 2 years ago. So who knows what it looks like now? But that's the Temple of Vedic Planetarium. You usually get pictures from the front, but this one was that I could get closer here. So next. These are some of the detail construction work. This is all gold tile and gold plate. So it's beautiful. It looks like a Fabergé egg. That's what Bhavananda's idea was, which are famous. It's like a jewel box. And of course, this is all stone placed against it. So it's beautiful detail work. Next. And this is the Temple Vedic Planetarium, how it will look. Actually, most of the exterior is finished. They're doing details. Like this is a clock. Looks like St. Mark's Square. And these, Lord Chaitanya, Lord Nityananda. Actually, I got it backwards. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda. So they're doing all the building is finished. They're doing all the detail work, and they're doing the inside, the actual in the temple, the deity worship floor, where the altars will be. I could have made this longer, but I didn't know how much time I had. So that gives you. This is what it's going to look like from that, construction site with a straw hut. And, a small building, this is what Mayapur's become. Next. So now we'll do now what's going to, hang on a minute. Now that it's open. This the Prabhupada wanted a planetarium inside with the deities. We've got the Prabhupada and all the acharyas on one altar. Then we've got Radha Madhava, and Lord Nrsingadev is over here in his own temple. Prabhupada said he should actually have his own temple. Oh, that's what I forgot. We've got the acharyas. Then in the center, we've got the Panchatattva, this beautiful giant Panchatattva. And then we have Radha Madhava on the other side. So those are the three altars. Someday I'll put together a slideshow that shows you artistic renderings and photographs of what the inside looks like. This side is a planetarium. So, well, I'll get there. I guess I should say this. Have you ever seen how buildings, they've got 3 buildings, and the middle building, they want to just, whatever you call it, they want to collapse it so they can build there. And you've seen it, they push the pump, or, they blow the dynamite, and the thing just telescopes in. We've all seen those, right? You've seen that. You know how they do that? It's very scientific. They get these structural drawings, and they figure out where the linchpins are, where the, what do you call it? But the main supports of the building, steel supports, and they put dynamite at those key intersections. When they blow out what's the structural that's supporting the thing, the weight of the building itself just collapses the weight of the building. So Sariputta gave this example of what happens. And he made the point, and it's true, that world visions change. Prabhupada said, my disease is I cannot think small. We are meant to change the world. And it's not hyperbole or, wishful thinking or impossible rhinoceros hunting. If you don't catch one, no one will blame you. It's not what it means. They used to think the world was flat and heaven was above and the earth was, hell was below. And they used to think there was the age of reason, there's the age of enlightenment, there's the industrial age. There's so many different ages when worldview has changed. And as it's changed so much, there's the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, there's so many, where the worldview of the general population has changed. As it's changed in the past, sometimes they're so arrogant. They say the end of history. It's not the end. When the Soviet Empire collapsed, New York Times said end of history. In other words, now America's the tops, Pax Americana. How long did that last? We've got ISIS, and there's more people die from regional fighting in the last 10 years that died in World War I and World War II. It hasn't become, the whole thing keeps churning. History keeps changing. So why shouldn't we think that history can't change now? Of course it will. So Prabhupada said that, and he wrote his purports to this design, and he instructed the TOVP, anyway, I'll get there in a minute. He instructed Bhaktivedanta Institute. He said there are different linchpins that hold up this worldview. The current mechanistic consciousness is just brain function. There is no soul. There is no God. There's no transmigration of the soul. We're just fertilizer, bear me under a tree. All of that, you can abort babies because it's just fetal tissue. So so many things flow from it. And Prabhupada would not stand for it. So Prabhupada said, you blow out their view of their astrological world view. You blow out that consciousness is a symptom of the eternal soul. It's not just brain function, C fibers firing. No way. You blow out, Prabhupada says, sex and sensual pleasure. Blow out Freud. Blow out Darwin. You blow those out, and the whole worldview collapses. And it can be replaced by a Vaishnav, Vedic, theistic worldview. And that's our job. We don't think small. That's why we distribute books. That's why we distribute prasadam. That's why we go out on Harinam. And I can tell you, having lived in America, whatever it is, how long? 70 years, almost 70 years. And since we started book distribution, we used to go out and hand out books. We say it's bhakti yoga, it's about yoga. Yogurt? Hell, man, I don't eat yogurt. And you go back up, try it again. I mean, and now we used to, there's an old joke, and I've told it before, I'm going to tell it again. What time is it? Woo. About transmigration. So if a man is trying to explain to his dimwit friends, but this is what America was like. His friend, a man was trying to explain to his dimwit friend about transmigration, reincarnation. And he said to his friend, if you live piously, if you act, properly, kindly, compassionately, then in your next life, you're born in a higher state. And the dimwit friend says, oh, like Colorado? It's an old joke. So the point is that that's what it was like. Vegetarian? Oh, what do you eat? Oh my gosh. Now you say, vegetarian, people, they go, oh, geez. Oh, they say, I'm a vegetarian. They double down, I'm a vegan. They say, yeah, I'm sorry, but I just eat fish. They apologize. I mean, not, but certainly a significant portion of the population. So it's an amazing thing. And I tell you, much of it, karma, guru, mantra meditation, vegetarian, it's because we're distributing books. Where else is it coming from? So even now we see the tide turning. It takes time. It takes a couple hundred years usually for the view to change. Okay, so next, Now, what's going to be in this side? So Prabhupada wanted that you could stand on the ground floor, stand down here, and look up and see the whole cosmos according to the Vedic design. This side, and on these different floors, I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, I don't know how many, but there's a number of floors going up. And this is also a Vedic planetarium where we'll do different shows about karma, about reincarnation, about, Vedic Varnashram Dharma, Vedic agriculture, so many things. We can put on different shows, and we've already got content. We've already got devotees working on content. And then this will also be all displays. So and this, of course, is Lord Nrsingadev. He's Ugra Nrsinga. He almost has to be in an atomic reactor because he's, flaming. Next. Oh, next presentation. Thanks. And we'll go through this quickly. But this is where the money, a portion of the money from book distribution is going. This is part of our the big plan for changing the world. Again, Prabhupada said, and we're his followers, I cannot think small. Okay, so this is a report that comes yearly, supposed to come yearly to the GBC. And we just got it. I don't have time to play the audio. You'll see why in a minute. But this is just so you know, as it says, Temple of Vedic Planetarium exhibits content and levels. So this building, people will come from around the world. And it has to, you'll see, it has to stand the test. We're going to have scientists, astronomers, doctors. The media is going to be all over this thing. And it's going to jump. It's going to be a city. We're going to have hotels. We have restaurants, guest houses. There's going to be a college, Varnashram College. How much is it? It's like, I could be wrong. It's either 30 to 60 acres set aside for developing a Vedic college. It's a master plan. Next. So this we don't have time to play, and I can't hook up the audio. It'd take too long. Next. So we'll go right. We don't have the audio, but I'll run through it quickly. Next. So on the entrance level, Prabhupada's journey. There'll be a whole, how did Prabhupada come to America? All alone, talk about, against all odds, truth to power. Dogs run free, so why can't we? And Prabhupada says, no, you got to control yourself. I mean, everybody's got long hair, shave up. I mean, how many things are wrong in this picture? He's an old man in a foreign country, 2 heart attacks on the way over, no funding. Who would bet on the odds of this thing succeeding? So that explains the Prabhupada's profound journey. And the next is the sages of Naimisharanya, is setting people up for the Srimad Bhagavatam. I can tell you, in Delhi, they had the changing bodies experience. They found out that you see karma, you see reincarnation, there's so many things. They had to put a couple benches when you come out because people had their minds blown. They had to sit down. What's going to happen to me? There's the butcher with the cow face and the cow with the human face. No, people were rewired. So you can imagine so we want to set them up for the Bhagavatam and set them up for reading Srila Prabhupada's books. Next. So this has see how it's setting the ground. Limitation of the senses, acquiring perfect knowledge, the morphing wall. That's it. Well, you'll stand. They've got the software already. And you'll stand individually, you can walk along it, and you'll see yourself go through the changing bodies with your face and your face aging. They'll spin you through different bodies. Hey, if you do this, this is what's going to happen. You can imagine they're going to have a couple benches and somebody there with, what do they give them? The smelling salts to wake them up afterwards, Then consciousness, near death and out of body experiences. Now, I'll tell you, Akhandati Prabhu, who used to be the president of the temple in Bhaktivedanta Manor, he has become one of the world's experts at explaining how consciousness is not brain function and all the different reasons why. He's on top of it all. He's giving a presentation Wednesday it's going to go to Oxford, it's going to go to Harvard, and if someone wants, they can contact me and I can send you his set of seminars. He is just expert. He can go to MIT. Prabhupada said you've got so many departments. When Prabhupada spoke at MIT, you have so many departments. Where is the department that can tell me the difference between what happens at the time of death and what is the self? Where's that department? But he had an answer. Well, now we're getting there. So next, we have Exhibit 5, changing bodies, reincarnation. Sages see with equal vision the soul in all. So first off, we're driving home the point that you're not this body and consciousness is not brain function. And your senses are limited. All of that is driven home. So their mind opens. Wait a minute. There used to be a comedy group called Fire Sign Theater, and their mantra was, everything you know is wrong. And that's a fact. 90% of what they know, and if they're not a theist, 100% of what they know is wrong. But you got to open their minds. You got to prove it to them. So that's what all this is a setup for. Next. Okay, we can go on. So, this is Dhruta Karma, given all the facility he needs to just blow it all out. Dhruta Karma's been working on this. Origins Magazine, Forbidden Archaeology, Impact, the result of, so many things. So first off, we take a whack at Darwin. Prabhupada said, the missing link is my foot in your face. He also said, what evolution? You're still monkeys. Then Prabhupada said, your ancestors may be monkeys. He said, but my ancestors are the great Vedic sages of India. So there it is. And Dhruta goes for it. Some faults in modern evolution theory, secondary creation, Vedic origins of species. It's not evolution, it's devolution. They've got it completely backwards. And the entropy, the basic law of physics, things do not evolve from higher states to lower states. This garden was not just an empty field and then spontaneously everything came. If we leave this garden alone, leave it alone for a month, leave it alone for a year, what happens to this garden? Do we have more roses and a new fountain? Everything. You leave a building alone, just everything in the material world devolves. It's the law of entropy. So the idea that it evolved up. Okay, next. History of the life in the universe, according to the Bhagavatam, 8 million species, up to the humankind are 400,000. Human form of life, elevation from the human form of life. So that's all different displays. all with interactive graphics, computer graphics and animation. It's fantastic. Next. Okay, now we're moving into where are those letters? Well, next, there's some letters here I want to. The Vedas contain two distinct descriptions of the universe. One is given by the astronomical text, and another is in the Puranas, headed by the Srimad Bhagavatam. While there may be a difference between the two, we should accept both of these are factual. Actually, this is not quite accurate. And that's one of the things that GBC is working on. And our Bhaktivedanta Institute, not the Bhaktivedanta Institute in India, but the Bhaktivedanta Institute in Gainesville. Actually, there's just like the word Atma can mean the body, can mean the subtle body, and can mean the self. Or saying Bharatvarsa. Bharatvarsa can be, the subcontinent of India. It can be the planet Earth, or it can be the Vedic view of, with the Mount Meru and the whole thing. So according to context, it has different meanings. Prabhupada said, if you're talking about how do you square the fifth canto and all this other stuff, the thing is, there's one angle of vision. The example I've given, I'm not going to take the time, but two people meeting on the corner of 5th and Main. And if they're in 2-dimension, they can meet each other easily because there's only length and depth. But if you add the 3rd dimension of height, all of a sudden one's on the ground floor, one's on the 5th floor, they don't even see each other. Even modern physics, you add the dimension of time, there's so many, I don't know how many they're up to, but they're up to like 5, 6 different dimensions. So there's looking at it as human beings on planet Earth. There's as the demigods see it. There's as the great Vedic sages with mystic potency see it. There's all different ways. Prabhupada said, if I have a faceted diamond, any way I turn it, it catches the light differently from different angles. So the universe, creation, is seen from different angles according to your level of entrance. I have a computer. My kids can, well, let's just say, if I was an ordinary person has a computer in their house, their kids can use it to do the homework. Not so much as they know, and they play some games on it. I use it, I do my work on it. So it's a higher level of access. People have porn, or they have, I don't know what they've got it, which is, or they may work for the CIA. So there's different access levels according to their qualification or degradation, we can say. So there's different levels. Similarly, there's access levels to the universe. You got somebody, you go to a prison house, there's, club fed, and you got golfing, and you got, or you can be in a maximum security where they let you out, 1 hour a day all by yourself so you can see the sun. So there's different access levels. There's different restrictions. Why should we think that we're the measure of all things and we can, it's just a joke, we can see all things. It's like the ant saying, you all don't exist. It's just ridiculous. But out of arrogance and ignorance, two things, arrogance and ignorance, they've accepted that we know everything. So that's what this all blows out. And there's multiple. So how do you present those multi-dimensional measurements? How do you get an astrophysicist from MIT or from Oxford and convince them that the 5th canto is not fantasy, like Alice in Wonderland going through the rabbit hole? How do you convince them? Next. I hope we get to these letters. Astronomical texts such as Surya Siddhanta provide a description of the universe that matches what we perceive. Okay, next. Descriptions of the universe given in the 5th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, contains many elements that are completely beyond our limited sense perception. This is the inverse Mount Meru in the middle of the thing and all the planets going around it and the city of the demigods on top. Just unbelievable. Next. These presentations of the universe are experienced by different living entities with different grades of sense perception and different levels of access to the depth, to the realms of the universe, as I was describing. Next, I'm looking for these letters by Prabhupada. Within the Siddhantic universe, many elements are similar to ideas that have been... Anyway, we'll get there. The point is that Prabhupada gave them certain marks. There are certain marks to see if your view of the universe, you have to be able to explain Any astronomer, I didn't say astrologer, any astronomer walks into a building, a planetarium, trying to explain creation. Well, you have to explain eclipses. You have to, there's a whole set of criteria with your model you have to explain. If you can explain those, then, oh, you're onto something. Next. There are no perceptual or logical mechanisms to determine which of these is factual explanation of how the planets move. The only way to achieve this decisively is to hear the descending knowledge received from the Vedas. I would have put these in a different unit. You'll see in a minute. But you want it, we have to get them to this point so that they'll understand that the Bhagavatam is the truth and not just fantasy and romantic, stories. This is the point we want to get them to. We've blown them out of the idea that they've got everything figured out. We've blown them out of the idea that they're this body. We've blown them out of the idea that there's a soul and consciousness is a symptom of not just brain function. Now we're going to blow them out as far as their view of the universe. So this is where we want them to go. Next. Okay, modern scientific calculation. I'm going to skip this next because I'm looking at the time factor. Now, these two letters from Srila Prabhupada, I think they're blown up in the next one. Show me the next slide. Okay, within the planetarium, this is Prabhupada writing in 1973, maybe even earlier. Talk about, vision and where we're going to go and actually getting there. Within the planetarium, we will construct a huge detailed model of the universe as described in the text of the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And there should be a plaque or a statue of Sariputta who racked his brain for years and figured this thing out. The planets for the very large project are being taken solely, the plans for the very large project are being taken solely from the references found in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and its authoritative commentaries by important acharyas, along with other Purana Samhitas like Brahma Samhita. This is Prabhupada writing, giving us the order. Next. We will also show, just imagine, this is actually what's going on. We're making the little styrofoam balls and hung by strings. The little kid in 4th grade is, and Pluto is purple. Why should a 12-year-old child be able to explain the mysteries of the universe? Share with me the logic of that. I mean, you walk into a cosmology class, advanced math class in Harvard. They got those, blackboards that slide out. And you can get 6 just to draw one equation. You got to go across 6 blackboards. And a little 12-year-old, I got it all figured out. It works like this. Dream on. So this is the top of Mount Sumeru, and it's explaining the root of the sun. This is the city of Lord Brahma, and then on the 4 cardinal directions are the 4 cardinal demigods. It's just, and why shouldn't it be amazing? The fact that I'm sitting here talking to you is amazing. The fact that my hair grows. They can't explain any of this. I have a disease. It's a result of diabetes. It's called gastroparesis. I can't even say it. And they explain what are the symptoms, how it works, how to fix it, how to manage it. They have no idea. I have been talking, I have a heart doctor also, who when I first walked in said, "Oh, you're a monk. This will be good karma for me." He's actually a very nice guy and super smart. And, little by little, I've been working on him and taking him prasadam. And now he tells me, different medicines. I said, "Well, what does it do, doc? How does it?" He said, "To tell you the truth, we don't have the faintest idea. It was actually designed for epilepsy, but we found out, it controls heart rate, Now he'll tell me, he said, "To tell you the truth, we get together in locked rooms, auditoriums at UCSD, and we say, well, how does that work?" They have, the more they learn, the more the more how a cell works. They, we're pushing back the frontiers of knowledge. No, they're not. The more they study the brain, the more it blows their minds. They can't figure out how it works. They're looking at smaller areas. Well, why does this part of the brain light up when this happens? Oh, well, it must be this. And then they study that section. What? How does that work? Well, we better figure out this section. So they're not figuring it out. They're dividing the brain into more and more functions and more phenomena, and somehow they can't figure it out. The left part of the brain talks to the right side of the brain and instantaneously. How does that work? So anyway, so did we read this? It will also show Puranic universal model, just as it's displayed in the main dome of the TOVP. So it's going to be a simple version, with everything moving, all the planets moving, all the different levels. Prabhupada wanted it mechanized, moving. And I tell you, building that thing is a trip. But it has to, they look at that, I guess the quote isn't here, but it has to explain what we can observe with our modern eye. So many things, the movement of the stars, eclipses. So that model will do that. Then it says here, we have 2 meters high and will be accessible to the viewers from all sides and will provide explanations of various features within the model. So they'll take the big one hanging from this, Prabhupada wanted it hanging like a chandelier. A crystal chandelier had those tiers, have the different levels. He wanted that, showing the different levels of the different realms of the universe, creation. And then there'll be a smaller model that people can walk up to and turn, and it'll answer more questions. It's too much to put on one. Next. Here we can see the sun and the moon moving in their chariots. Chariots are being drawn by horses, moving in an anti-clockwise direction, but they're traveling with it. If you have a wheel, a potter's wheel that's turning, it's going in one direction. You can have an ant walking in the other direction. So he's moving forward on the larger scale, but on the smaller scale, he's moving in the other direction. So, because they're trying to figure out all the movements of the stars, and they're stumped in so many ways, or they have their theories, and they challenge us. But with this rotating wheel, like potter's wheel one way, and the planets are like the ant going the other way, lo and behold, the 5th canto lines up. Next. I don't think we have much farther to go. The most important lesson that we're attempting to inculcate in the visitors is the fact that the universe originates from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is maintained by him, and eventually wound up in him. Thus, it is a theistic presentation aimed at bringing the viewer closer to Krishna consciousness. This purpose is explicitly stated in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Next. There's other exhibits. Will also cover creation, dissolution of the universe, universal form of the Lord, cycle of samsara. Next. Oh, geez, I don't know how much. Let's just do this one more and we'll wrap it up. So, because Prabhupada wanted us to explain Devi Dham, he wanted us to explain the hellish planets, the middle planets, and the heavenly planets. You could go to a mall and it says, you are here, and you figure out. So if in the cosmos, it will be, you are here, and hey, guess what? This is where you're going, the 5th canto, if you don't shape up. Lord of the Exhibit 1, the Lord and his energies, the prison house. I guess that's the 5th canto. The hellish planets. The Vedas, universal wars, Vimanas. Next. Maheshtam. Okay, fine. So this is you can see here, it explains about Lord Shiva and his unique tattva. Next. Lord Shiva, well, I don't want to take up time. Haridam, this is the Vaikuntha planets. It explains all about the Vaikuntha planets. God, they know how God is great. How is God great? God is great. They say it like parrots. What does that actually mean? But he can't have pastimes. He can't have activities. He can't take the form of Lord Nrsingadev. Why? You just said God is great, all-powerful, omnipotent, but he can't do this, he can't do that. Well, he can't do that. Well, he certainly can't do that. What? He can't do that. Well, then what does it mean to say God is great? Next. And so it goes through the hellish planets it goes through the middle planets, it goes to the heavenly planets, it goes to Shivadam, it goes to Vaikuntha, and where does it wind up? And from there, they're taken for darshan of Radha Madhava. And they're no longer stone statues or wishful thinking or anthropomorphism. We've projected the form of a human form on the absolute. No, they've just had their mind completely blown and then replaced with solid answers. And they think, Jai, let me surrender to Radha Madhava. Next. Oh, then they've also got Lord Chaitanya. Next. So, on the way out, Krishna attracts us back home, avatars, sampradaya, the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, and up to date, the Hare Krishna movement. Next. Well, we're not going to go into that. But what this is, next, just one slide so they know the answer. This is the theater, an example of the three-dimensional, of course, how long has it been since you guys have been to Disneyland? I haven't been there in 50 years. But, they have rides that rock you back and forth, and you got a 3D, and the dinosaur's about to eat you or whatever, and you feel the, you're driving in a Jeep and it's rocking. This stage, it'll tilt and go backwards and forwards, and it has a 3D perception. You're right in the middle of it. Hare Krishna. Next. Anyway, it's the same idea. So we can end there. Yeah, we should end because of the time factor. But the point is, this is being produced by the Hare Krishna movement. It's being produced by, we have people that are donating significant amounts of money. Why? Because they came to the temple and had a nice feast. They saw the deities dressed so beautifully. They had a devotee speak to them nicely. They got a book and read it. So this is a collective, worldwide Hare Krishna movement effort. We're all involved. And all the book distribution, up till now, we're going to now start releasing a little more for construction around the world. But all this is happening from book distribution. So literally, when you sell a book, assuming you get the right price, we had to talk to Moog about this. So that's what you're building. That's what we're part of. And we are not meant for small things. We are meant to change the world and save people from this anxiety-ridden, hellish, what to speak. They're in anxiety living now. Can you imagine what their next life is? The average cow, because if you kill a cow, you have to take birth and be as a cow and be killed for as many hairs there are on the body of that cow. And the average cow, according to Dairyman's Magazine, there is such a thing, Dairyman's Magazine, the average cow has over 2,000 hairs per square inch. Imagine Colonel Sanders. Now he's got a grandson who's a devotee. But imagine what they're suffering now. Someone said to Prabhupada, they have so much opulence in the world now. Prabhupada said, what opulence? He said, they have glass and plastic. And then Prabhupada said, and they don't even have a moment's peace of mind. And how can you be happy without peace of mind? So in this life and in the future life, they are cruising for a bruising under the hand of the illusory energy. So what is our mission? Our mission is to save the population of Earth. And the Temple of Vedic Planetarium is it's like a conveyor belt. You put them in the front door and they come out. How do I get a copy? How do I get a set of Bhagavatams, How do I clean up? Okay, so we can in there, all glories to ISKCON and Prabhupada's transcendental vision. Thank you, Prabhupada. Okay, hey Govinda. Someone can hit the lights.